Hey, what's up guys? I'm PTC. Blizzard has updated their public test realm for Overwatch with a brand new patch. It's got a whole bunch of balance changes, some pretty huge nerfs, and the PTR also has the new test phase of the competitive ranked mode Season 2. So if you want to try all that out, what you can do is you go to your Battle.net launcher and you change your region to the PTR. You'll have to download a new client, but after that's all done, you can go and try out all this new stuff. Now, I've already talked about all of the changes that they're going to be making to competitive ranked Season 2 in a previous video when I was talking about the developer update. So I'll just put an annotation on the screen if you want to go and check out those changes. But in this video, I want to talk about all of the different balance updates that they're going to be making. Alright, so on to the good stuff. Hero balance updates, general section. Ultimates that consume the ultimate meter when activated will now drain the meter more quickly, 0.25 seconds instead of 1 second. Alright, so what is this? Certain characters like D.Va, for example, when she uses her ult, her meter goes from 100 to 0 basically instantly. And that's because you can't really stop her from using the ultimate. Once you press the button, the ultimate's activated and that's it. There are other characters, though, like Roadhog and McCree, who, when they activate their ultimate, there's a little bit of a grace period where it doesn't completely consume their ultimate. And that's because they can be killed right after activating their ultimate. So what this change does is it means that if you're killed immediately after activating your ultimate, you're going to have a lot less of your ultimate meter left over. So when you respawn, you'll still have a little bit of your meter, but most of it's going to be gone. Whereas before, you could get killed right after, and you might have 50, 60, 80% of your ultimate, and you could just get right back into it. So it's going to be a lot more punishing for the ultimates that have that little drain effect if you're killed immediately after activating it. So the next thing is they reverted a change to reduce the size of heroes' projectiles. I think this is mostly applying to Hanzo and the god tier hitboxes that his arrows have. So here are the developer comments. Altering the size of projectiles in flight had too many unintended side effects to keep in the game, at least in its current form. We will continue watching this and make additional changes if necessary. So, for Hanzo, this means that his arrows will hit their target a lot more often. Basically, the hitbox is going to be back to the large size it was before. They're probably going to end up nerfing this again. It's just going to be in some different form, and they're probably going to have to rework it a little bit. But I wouldn't get too excited because probably in the next, maybe month or so, there's going to be some nerfs coming, and they're going to be reworking the projectiles. All right, so on to the characters. D.Va Defense Matrix. After being activated, Defense Matrix will begin regenerating following a 1 second delay, formerly a 0.5 second delay. So developer comments, Defense Matrix was too efficient when tapped repeatedly instead of being held. Now the recovery delay matches the ability cooldown. So what all this means is that you're not going to get as much of the Defense Matrix charge as you used to. What used to happen is you could press it, briefly or for, a second or two, and then when you let go, after half a second, your meter would start charging, but you couldn't actually reactivate it until a full second passed. So you were guaranteed at least half a second of recharge time on the Defense Matrix. But now it's been changed so that the recharge doesn't start until the cooldown is up. So this is going to make Defense Matrix way less valuable in kind of like a use it for a second, stop using it, use it for a second, stop using it kind of situation. It looks like Blizzard wants you to, for the most part, expend most or all of your Defense Matrix meter at a single time. So, they don't want you to just do it in little bursts. They want you to be forced to use it almost, at least half of it, pretty much. This is a pretty significant nerf to her defensive capabilities, and I don't know, D.Va was becoming really good and she was probably where she needed to be, and now they nerfed her again. So, I mean, I think she's still better than she was before, but this nerf really doesn't seem necessary. Alright, on to Hanzo. Hanzo will now experience a 30% decrease in speed while aiming, formerly 40%. Maximum projectile speed has been increased by 30%. Developer comments, Hanzo has the potential to deal a lot of damage, but he can feel really inconsistent, even at medium distance. By increasing the projectile speed, we're extending his reliable range, making it easier to land shots without having to perfectly predict enemy movement. So Hanzo actually got like 3 buffs in this patch. The first one is that he now moves faster when he has the bow drawn. So, I mean, that's nice. Maximum projectile speed has been increased by a pretty decent amount. So when you fire off that arrow, it's going to move real fast. And the last thing was what I talked about earlier, where they reverted the size of the projectile hitbox. So because the arrows are now going to have a larger hitbox like they used to, like Hanzo moves faster, his arrows move faster, and the arrows have a bigger hitbox. So Hanzo got some pretty solid buffs in this. I mean, yeah, the projectile hitbox thing is probably going to be nerfed again at some point, but those are some pretty solid buffs. I don't know if this is good enough to make him like really viable at higher levels, but I mean, definitely some buffs for Hanzo. I mean, he needs them. All right, next up is Mei. Her Blizzard ultimate. The Blizzard projectile, which is the little robot thingy that she throws out, now pierces barriers. Radius has been increased from 8 meters to 10 meters. Developer comments, Mei has an interesting toolkit, but her ultimate often felt like it was too difficult to use effectively. Consequently, it felt weak compared to many other ultimate abilities. The freeze effect has been piercing barriers for some time now, but the projectile, the little robot guy, would still be blocked. Now you can throw it down exactly where you want it, so it's much easier to utilize the full radius effectively. So this is a pretty decent buff to Mei. So a couple of things. Usually you would have to wait until Reinhardt would lower his shield or have his shield destroyed before you could really throw your ultimate in there. Now you don't have to, because now it will just go right through it. And the other thing is the radius has been increased by 2 meters, and that's actually a pretty significant increase. A lot of times when players would get stuck in the blizzard, they would be able to escape, but they would escape just barely. But now it's probably going to be really difficult. I mean, unless a character has some sort of high mobility dash or something, they're probably not going to get out of it anymore. So most of the enemy that are inside the blizzard are almost certainly going to be frozen now. So this is a pretty decent buff to her ultimate. Onto McCree, he got a pretty big nerf to his ultimate. Deadeye now drains over a 0.25 second period instead of displaying a 50% reduction on the ultimate meter when activated and a 0% when confirmed. So developer comments, if players manage to counter or avoid McCree's ultimate, it would often regenerate very quickly since only half of the ultimate charge was spent. Now this ultimate works like every other ultimate that has a duration. So this was a huge nerf to his ultimate. Now there's no getting out of the ultimate. If you use it, then the entire charge is just gone. Where before, if you used your ultimate and everybody scattered and you didn't get a shot, you could just either wait out the timer or you could cancel it and you would still have 50% of your ult. You can rebuild it and then try again. So now when McCree uses his ult, it's going to drain the charge almost instantly. Really, the only way you can keep even a tiny bit of your ultimate charge is if you are killed immediately after you activate your ultimate. And then you'll have a little bit of your charge left. So now, really, when you use your ultimate, just you got to get your kills or that's it, you lose it. Now, you can still cancel your ultimate, but you don't get any charge back from that. Canceling your ultimate simply gives you control of your character again. Onto Mercy, she got a whole bunch of buffs. For her healing beam, the healing per second has been increased by 20%. On Resurrect, her ultimate, resurrected allies will be able to maneuver after 2.25 seconds, which was reduced from 3 seconds. Developer comments, Resurrection now allows teammates to jump back into the fight more quickly, which should help Mercy survive after activating her ultimate. Mercy's healing is also getting a boost to solidify her role as a strong single-target healer. So she heals faster now, and people who are resurrected get control of their character a little bit quicker. Now, something that it's not in the patch notes is she also got another buff to her ult, which is a result of the healing being increased. So because she is now healing faster, she's going to be building her ultimate faster as well. So that's not, reflected in the patch notes, but you can basically keep that in mind when you're playing as Mercy, is that she's going to be building her ult faster because she's now healing faster. Alright, on to Genji. He got a whole bunch of nerfs. So let me go through the list. Double jump no longer resets when wall climbing. The dash no longer deals damage to traps like Widowmaker's Venom Mine or Junkrat's Steel Trap, and it no longer bypasses the Steel Trap either. The Swift Strike no longer interrupts quick melee attacks, and the Dragon Blade, his ultimate, duration of Genji's ultimate, has been reduced from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. Developer comments, Genji was a little too difficult to pin down, and these changes will balance his speed. Swift Strike no longer cancels the recovery time from a quick melee attack, so players will no longer be able to get a free melee attack before using Swift Strike. And lastly, Dragon Blade's duration was long enough that it often felt too difficult to reasonably counter. Alright, so these are some pretty big nerfs. Let's talk about them for a second. Double jump no longer resetting when wall climbing means that Genji is going to lose a bunch of his mobility. The dash no longer dealing damage to the traps really isn't a big deal. The problem is that now you get caught in the steel trap when you try to dash through it. So that's definitely going to be a problem. And the Swift Strike no longer interrupting the melee attack is going to significantly reduce the amount of damage Genji can do at close range. So what you used to do is you would right-click to throw out the shurikens, then you would immediately cancel that into a quick melee, and then you would immediately cancel that into the Swift Strike, and you could do a lot of damage to a target that was right next to you. So now you can still right-click to throw out the shurikens and then quick melee, or you can throw the shurikens and then dash, but you can't do all three. So this is going to be a pretty big reduction in his damage at close range. And for the Dragon Blade, this basically means that Zenyatta and Lucio, their ults will now completely counter Genji's. So as soon as you hear Genji start up his ult, the Zenyatta and the Lucio can trigger their ult, and since they're both 6 seconds now, like the Zenyatta and the Lucio ult are going to completely cancel out the 6 second of Genji's ult. So again, less mobility, he's going to get stuck in the traps, his close range combo got severely nerfed, and his ultimate is now going to be a lot easier to counter. So Genji got hit pretty hard with that nerf bat. Lucio, amp it up. The boosting of movement speed has been decreased by 30%, from a 100% increase to a 70% increase. Developer comments, thanks to Lucio's speed increase, he was almost a must-pick in every lineup. Yeah, that's not really entirely true. That's not why Lucio is a must-pick in every lineup. The reason why Lucio is a must-pick is because he's the only character that can do what he can do. Like, you have Mercy and Zenyatta and Ana, who are all single-target healers. Lucio is the only group healer. He's the only AoE healer. Yeah, I know Zenyatta can ult, but that's only once in a while. Lucio can heal his entire team all the time. So yeah, his speed boost is great, especially in the higher ranked gameplay where the amp it up is used a lot more often. You know, in lower rank games, usually Lucio players just kind of leave it on healing and they almost never change it over to speed. But the thing is, with Lucio, he can heal anybody that he can see. So any member of his team that's within line of sight can get healed or speed boosted. And the thing is, the heal will completely negate chip damage. So when you're doing a little bit of damage here and there to different members of the enemy team, if they have a Lucio, he's just going to heal that up almost instantly. So yeah, the speed boost is very powerful for Lucio because, again, he's the only one that can really do that for his team. He can make his whole team move, but he can also heal his whole team as well. So until there's another character in the game that can do that sort of AoE effect, Lucio is it. Like, that's why he's the must pick, because he's the only player, he's the only character that can do what he can do. So even with this nerf to the amp it up, he's still a must pick, because he's the only character that can do what he can do. Alright, next up is Roadhog. This is kind of a buff. Chain hook. If the hook target isn't in Roadhog's line of sight when retracting the hook, they will be moved back to the position where they were originally hooked. Developer comments, this change means that hooked targets will be less likely to slide along walls, potentially ending up in an odd place after they've been reeled in. Alright, so what this means is when you throw the hook, if the game decides, yes, you have landed the hook, but that player is still moving and they go around a corner or something, that player is going to be teleported to the spot where the game said that they were hooked. Which means that almost all the time now, the target is going to be pulled towards Roadhog. They're not going to get stuck on a wall or something. This is good, but I think it's also going to be really frustrating for the people that are getting hooked by Roadhog, because what's going to happen is they're going to go around a corner or something, but they're still going to get hooked, so they're going to end up teleporting, and then they're going to get pulled in. And for the person that gets teleported, that's going to be a frustrating experience. So again, this is kind of a buff, because before, when you would go around the corner or whatever, you know, there was that chance you would get stuck on the wall or stuck on a corner, and you wouldn't get pulled in all the way, so Roadhog couldn't do the left-click quick melee combo and just, you know, instantly kill you. But now, because you're going to be teleporting back to that other spot, and there's like a 100% chance you're going to get reeled into him, that's not going to happen. So this was, you know, kind of a slight buff to Roadhog, but I do feel that people are going to get quite frustrated when they see their character like teleport to a different location and then get reeled in. And last for the hero balance changes is Zenyatta, the Orb of Discord. The amount of damage amplified by a target with Orb of Discord has been decreased from 50% to 30%, and the Orb of Destruction damage has been increased from 40 to 46. Developer comments, Zenyatta is in a far better place since the last update, but the strength of Orb of Discord has turned him into an almost mandatory pick. These changes reduce Orb of Discord's effectiveness, but his damage dealing potential has been increased. The amount of damage that he delivers should feel largely unaffected by the change. So they made it so his teammates do less damage to a discorded target, but Zenyatta does about the same. This is probably the opposite of what they actually should have done. Zenyatta is a healer, and yet he can two-shot some of the other heroes in the game. Other ones he can three-shot. He's a healer, and he can two-shot people. I've never thought that that was a good idea at all. Like, yes, I know that Zenyatta should do a little bit more damage because he doesn't have the mobility, but he's a healer that can two-shot people. Alright, so on to the map balance changes. Watch Point Gibraltar. The first checkpoint has been removed. Developer comments, the balance changes that were implemented in previous patches have eliminated the need for Watch Point Gibraltar to have an extra checkpoint. Really, that checkpoint wasn't doing anything anyways, because most teams would simply let that first checkpoint get captured anyways, because the uphill for the second checkpoint was way more defensible. And a lot of times, if you kind of went overboard trying to defend that first checkpoint and your defensive team got wiped out, it essentially meant that they would take not only the first checkpoint, but they would immediately take the second checkpoint as well. So yeah, that first checkpoint didn't need to be there. It was just kind of whatever. User interface updates general. A new allied health bars option has been added. So it looks like you can see your allied health bars no matter what character you're playing. So that's pretty cool. Contextual menus have been added on the hero selection screen, giving players the ability to report or group up with other players. Matchmaking UI is now purple in the competitive play queue, and made several minor adjustments to typography in the spectator UI. Alright, so that's all the changes on the PTR. I am going to make another video where I demonstrate the differences between what's on the live servers and what's on the PTR, so you can kind of see the difference between what happens when McCree uses his ult on the live versus on the PTR, you know, Genji's little combos and all those sorts of stuff, so you can see, you know, firsthand how they look and how they compare to each other. So subscribe if you want to check that out. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, share it with your friends, and again, subscribe because there's lots more Overwatch. Remember, always blame the controller because it's never your fault.